That might be 300 miles away. Square miles, about the size of the United States, and 246 motorists. Is a test of the qualities and of the modern stock model motor car. Not souped up races or gadget hazards, just ordinary stock models, like these. It's a test, too, of the men who drive and navigate them. This is Lloyd Burrell bringing you an on-the-spot story of the longest, toughest car trial the world has ever seen. It begins at a large Sydney service station where all cars must be inspected days before the start. This entry is from New Zealand, driven by Kim Burge. Well-known driver Frank Klein, parts of his car are sprayed with a special paint which prevents their replacement. This job is going to cause a heck of a stir among the big brawny men of the wide open spaces. Of the 263 entries, 58 are Holdens, and the crystal ball says this particular one is going to shape well. South Australia's Possum Kipling is a much-favoured entry. The Riverina boys are on deck, and his lights are properly focused. Jack Murray, Bill McLaughlin, navigator Mari Higgs, and Norman Pleasance, trial director. Many drivers have their ignition tested with KLG's special equipment. That motor is giving a good reading. Duck Anderson of Queensland is one of 45 drivers whose cars are equipped with air zone coils. Prizes totaling £200 were offered this beard. As a matter of fact, he won it. This special canned food pack is issued to every car by a well-known manufacturer. We knew it was going to be a long trial, but after all, you can't get to the moon by car, fellas. Yet, anyway. The answer's simple enough. Spacemen to drive space masters. Harassed mechanics after a rush of checking are ready for anything. Well, almost anything. She's a stock model, mister, and not souped up either. Okay, son. Take 10 years' start and you're in. One of the two Cinesound Peugeot camera cars carrying the team that put the trial on world screens. Specially designed Lucas lighting with only a 12-volt battery as power source made some remarkable night photography possible. Saville Brothers Holden undergoes pre-trial inspection and driver Jack Brabham attaches the official REDEX stencil. Big business takes special interest in the trial, and this firm, for instance, added a prefabricated house to the first prize money of a Sydney entrant, Arthur Gunn of the Silver Jacket magazine. Gorfain once drove 2,700 miles from Chicago to San Francisco in 4 days. 41 Ford vehicles competed, including 11 custom lines and a total of 17 Zephyrs and Consuls. Not forgetting, of course, a certain 1948 Ford to be driven by one Jack Murray. Among the 30 Peugeots is car 111 in charge of Holt Binney of New South Wales. And now, the night before the start, 100 drivers, navigators and crew members assemble for their final briefing. They hear about secret controls from Sporting Car Club President Dan McFarlane. Red Shepherd, Managing Director of REDEX, stresses that this is a reliable, not a speed test. A special plane is to take Sporting Car Club officials from control to control right round the route. Their job will be to straighten out difficulties on each leg of the trial. Looks like they can get started right away. The big day. At Sydney Showground, noon, and right on the second, car number 1 is flagged out by English singing star Donald Fears. It's G. Marshall in his standard 8, the first of the 246 starters. The official New Zealand team is second away exactly 2 minutes later. It's going to take 8 hours and 10 minutes to send this field away. E.J. LaFoe is at the wheel of that Space Master. Car 39, driven by Cyril Maloney of Broken Hill. His Holden has already crossed a lot of wide-open space to get to the start. Vanguard 61, entered by H&L Cook, gets away to a big farewell. Radio star Jack Davey in his custom line is on his way. Jack ran into plenty of bad luck. Wild horses, or even leopards, wouldn't keep Lucille Christian of the Arthur Murray School of Dancing out of it. She's an American girl and reckons it's no place for poodles. What would a dog do in all those treeless wastes? Arthur Gorfain is a special hero to the myriad small boys who swarm the track. There goes Bill McLaughlin in his Ford Zephyr. Jack Jeffrey has chosen a Volkswagen, entered for the first time in an Australian reliability trial. They've been stock cars on the local market for less than a year, but the long, hard trial proves that they're quite at home in Australian conditions. Following Jeffrey is car 152, a Vauxhall Velox, driven by B. West and starting 5 hours behind the leader. That's Doug Parker's Peugeot. Cars by now are spread out over hundreds of miles of roads leading north to Brisbane. Night at the showground and competitors are still leaving. Despite the 8-hour send-off, a big crowd remains to cheer crews on their way. Well-known driver John Crouch gets away in his Morris Oxford. 20 minutes later, Ormond's Peugeot crosses the starting line. Average speed set to Brisbane is a slow 28 miles per hour. Drivers got a little impatient about it. Sunday morning found us near Coffs Harbour, northern New South Wales. Not much trouble to any of the drivers or cars, and most of them crossed the Tweed River Bridge without any loss of points. The border, and Bill McLaughlin's Zephyr slides into Queensland at a leisurely pace. The road between Coolangatta and Southport skirts the Pacific. It's been plain sailing, but that was expected. Brisbane, capital city of Queensland, and a haven for 246 tired crews. First into control at Brisbane Exhibition Ground, car number 1, Gordon Marshall at the wheel. The New Zealand team's on time too, no points lost, and Kim Burge's beard is doing fine. A Volkswagen arriving, Victorian entry number 54, no points lost. Cyril Maloney's crew have their car checked and then head straight for a meal and sleep. No Auto Sales A70 entered from Victoria. A secret control trapped a few cars between Sydney and Brisbane, but not these boys. They're checking in on time and with a clean score sheet. Bill McLaughlin and Mari Higgs say it was too easy. A Sunday drive. But wait. While cars are in control, no maintenance whatever may be done. To even lift a bonnet means loss of points. Drivers and crews can do a bit of personal maintenance, though, after 23 hours at the wheel. Boy, does that shower feel good. Ask Lloyd Davies. And that toothbrush is going to know it's been on a reliability trial, too. And so to sleep. The chance to dream. North from Brisbane. It's a lovely morning and... darn it, a secret control. Just around the bend, south of Nambour, and it traps quite a few. The man with the lamp's as popular as a puncture with drivers and navigators. They've been giving cars their heads on the good roads. John Crouch has a smile like the cat that swallowed the canary. That's one secret control that hasn't cost him any points. Heading north toward Maryborough and Bundaberg, cruising through pleasant open country, and from all sides getting that warm, friendly welcome that we're to receive all the way around Australia. They'll get used to mud and dust. Hold it, this is something. A koala bear, and outside a pedestrian crossing too. What a break for a cameraman. The most lovable little animal of all Australian wildlife couldn't really care less about us, so long as there's a tree handy. The family's waiting upstairs. Into Maryborough, and there's a big crowd to see us arrive. This is only a checkpoint, so we can't stay. On your way, boys. Bundaberg is 75 miles north. We're deep in the sugar country now, but there's not much time to look it over. Nor for the cane cutters to look us over. And it's getting hot, too. Driver Les Western thinks so anyway. Night comes again as the field surges toward Bundaberg. Our world becomes the small patch of light thrown ahead. Tropical fruit stalls on the highway tell drivers, if they don't know it already, that they're a long, long way from home. Bundaberg, second scheduled checkpoint between Brisbane and Rockhampton. G.W. Patterson's Peugeot is one of the point score leaders, and so is car 30, E.A. Nelson's Spacemaster. There's a rainbow round their shoulder as they hit the road again. We're going non-stop to Rockhampton. He's non-stop for the borough. Last year's winner, Ken Tubman, making fast time. Too fast, maybe. Watch this narrow escape as his car almost goes off the road. That was close, Ken. Driver speed through towns, and the cowboys, of course, don't appear on the route maps. Holt Binney's Peugeot is ahead of schedule, so Binney and his crew stop for running maintenance. From Sydney to the Tropic of Capricorn, we've come more than 1,100 miles in 38 hours, comparatively easy driving time. 91 cars have lost points so far, but we must clap on the pace. The Ruse Bolt. After all, one of their colleagues copped it in the last trial. This is a subtropical city, Mackay, with citizens in customary midwinter shirt sleeves. It's a wealthy town and popular with winter tourists from the south. Out from Mackay, Townsville ahead, and no points lost for Bob Sears in his Peugeot. Or Bill McLaughlin in his Zephyr. Others aren't so lucky. J.B. Cook has to stop for minor repairs. He'd lost only 7 points to Rockhampton, but is able to get going again. And what's this? Another hold-up? Well, not exactly. It's just a friendly get-together. Driving in the tropics is thirsty work, and that dust takes some settling. At left is Andy Spanner, who later turned his Chevrolet over, was unhurt and got back in the trial. Ace Victorian driver Lex Davidson is always up with the leaders. Close behind as the first crowds indicate that we're nearing the third major control in this grueling trial, Townsville. So far, we've come nearly 1,700 miles, about 1/5 of the entire journey, and more than half the entrants have lost points. Lucille Christian has lost points, but none of her chic. The kookaburra can laugh his head off. Have hit the sleeping bags, but hard. Take an atom bomb to shift them. Driver Granny Conway's awake, though. Maybe she was attracted by the gentle spitting of delicious sausages. Boy, oh boy, do they look good. They taste fine, too. But while they eat, the birds are away again, heading westward, time bound for Mount Isa, 613 miles away. On this long stretch, bad roads and secret controls will chalk up points to all contestants. There are a few unscheduled hazards, too. Westward ho, to Mount Isa. Got him! Now the tempo quickens, speed and still more speed. car could race over this section, a dried-up riverbed that tests springs and tires. You don't have to be in the trial to get trouble. Sorry, brother, but it's all yours. Under the railway bridge, and Arthur Murray's not in a hurry, or driver Lucille Christian isn't. She was forced to drop out on the next leg. This is really rugged going. The kind of road, well, they call it a road, that tests suspension and shock absorbers to the very limit. Well, out into the Australian bush, and these tracks certainly weren't made for Sunday drivers. They're rough, and the hazard of dust is beginning to take its toll. Well, all the goats aren't in the trial. S. Carpenter noses his Zephyr gingerly into a dried-up creek bed. We said it wasn't for Sunday drivers. Slow down, or you'll hit that water too fast. It's the unexpected that can cost points, or can wreck a car in a matter of seconds. A standard from Victoria takes the water jump in its stride. Doug Parker of Sydney, 1 point only lost and going particularly well. This is a trap for young players, but it's a field day for the locals. They haven't had so much fun since Dooley's bull got loose. The motor's in a stew, but there's no manpower shortage. Give her your shoulder, boys. That's the stuff. Another pound now, and he's out. A Holden goes straight through with the help of a non-expert team of helpers. They'd stay here all night pushing these city slickers around. Damsels in distress. Life's just too kind. Will they push them out? Will they? Why, they've even sent for a team of Clydesdales, but the big Humber pulled herself out. Come on in, hang on to your seats, and let's get excitement. That Holden's too fast, asking for trouble. Tough country, brother. It's no wonder they call this a horror stretch. There's a new hazard round every bend. Did we say horror stretch? The road and creeks aren't enough. Here's another secret control not far from Cloncurry. And do they shed points here? It's crack driver Tommy Salmon, and from that sheepish look, this control is... Paperman Tom Farrell's custom line slides in early too, and it cost co-driver John Jones 25 points. It's their first debit. This brings his points loss up to 358. No wonder he's annoyed. On the horizon, looks like I'm into trouble. Davey reckons all the officials are in the pay of Bob Dyer. When back from Control Officer Tony Mann, he'll have cracked the jackpot, a total of 108 points to date. E.A. Nelson takes his Spacemaster away after parting with 19 points, all for being too early. Still, there are worse things than secret controls, like having to be towed. We're in the uranium country, and without a Geiger counter, you can almost hear those hills ticking. Here's trouble, miles from anywhere, and his gearbox has had it. Start walking, chum, or the dingoes will get you. Time has to be made up, so Frank Kleinig lets her have it. An MG against the clock. It ran off the road later when its exhausted driver slipped at the wheel. Got back in the trial, though. Jack Davey in strife again. It's one of many, but that doesn't make it any easier, does it, Jack? Oh, sorry, Jack. I was only asking. Mount Isa is quite a sizable town, but when anybody wants to get there, they fly. D.E. Doherty of Victoria is not an entrant in the best beard contest. Only 3 drivers lost no points, one of them Jack Murray, who looks surprisingly fresh. so we hit the bitumen. Mount Isa direct to Darwin. 1,050 miles at an average speed of 40. Easy on this road. Just keep from falling asleep at the wheel. That's all you have to worry about. But to very weary men, that's plenty. Cars come fast. Brother, they sure do. And disaster strikes where it's least expected. Last year's winner, Ken Tubman, is out of the race with a broken tail shaft, probably weakened by the battering it took in the horror stretch. Now, adding to the tropical heat, scrub fires burn on each side of the highway. Averaging only 2 hours sleep in 24, cameramen are really feeling the strain. And at dawn, we run into Renner Springs. Not even a name to most Australians. The REDEX drivers are certainly seeing their country. Any sign of habitation starts to look interesting after a while in the outback, but we must push on, still northward toward Daly Waters. There they go, spread out over nearly 400 miles, with the leaders already in Darwin. Even from the comfort of the official plane, you can see they're racing to gain time for much-needed maintenance before they check in at the Darwin control below. A sunken ship reminds us of the beating the town took from Japanese bombers in the grim years at the beginning of the war in the Pacific. Darwin is an outpost town, but first port in Australia for airliners from England, Europe and the Far East. REDEX men make for the Commonwealth Bank. These trials sure do cost money. Darwin has an attractive waterfront with good swimming facilities. And some mighty good-looking swimmers. Along the beach, Aborigines put on an impromptu corroboree for the REDEX men in impromptu pants. For John LaFoe, it's the original Darktown Strutters Ball. These boys are, of course, semi-civilized, but not far away, their people still roam in their completely primitive state. We're off on the 969-mile jump to Christmas Creek, and it's going to be heading really tough. Down the bitumen again to Catherine. From here on, we face some of the toughest, most isolated country in Australia. We're in for a nightmare journey. Many are to come to grief in the next 500 miles. Dust 3 feet deep. Dust that corrodes, sip into engines and men's lungs. An almost impenetrable screen, blinding crews of following cars. Danger at every corner, the ever-present risk of an uncontrollable skid at a concealed turn. This pace is too hot. Look out! Down. And under the dust like a submarine in a crash dive. After this, the Mount Isa horror stretch was a picnic. Outback Australians watch wide-eyed as the cars stream past. He doesn't want to be in the picture, and he doesn't want to wave either. Anthill country, every mound a nest for a colony of millions of busy insects, thrusting like brown fingers into the sky and making the track difficult to pick in parts. But the speed doesn't slacken. The foe's vanguard, 40 points down and making up time fast. And here's one of the leading Holden teams flashing toward the next control. Death on the road. An exceptionally dry season, perhaps, or in the car. Fall. A lot cooler now, and we come into Top Springs. After that ride, it's the bottom springs we're a bit worried about. But this rest is a chance to check over cars and get some of the dust out of them. Time for a little relaxation, too. A shrewd desert showman hits up an immediate friendship with one of the teams. Probably has his eye on a celebrity contract, the Top Springs tenor. Peter Antill, the old dog for the hard road, takes care of it. There are no cafes here. It's the back country where a man must fend for himself. 500 miles to the nearest shop, so drivers bring out their canned food packs. They're hungry men, and John Webb, crew member of a custom line from Perth, reckons that even the food Mother cooked never tasted better. Ken and Ray Christie in 233 are away before daylight. They hadn't gone far when their headlights found trouble. A Morris Minor driven by E. Roberts, which ran off the road, hit a tree, and was severely damaged. You can't afford one mistake in this rugged country. The strain is severe. An exhausted cameraman is completely out to it in the narrow bunk in the car. But his mate's alert when a roo hops up. We flash on our special lighting, and kangaroos on the track are a constant menace to night driving. Pull over, Roo, we've got to... Number 8, D. Doherty of Victoria, moves his Zephyr fast. At this pace, it's little wonder cars, one after another, are forced from the trial. That's no consolation for Doug Parker and his team. They're stranded miles from anywhere. It may take some time to get out of this jam. Slazenger's supplied us with a rifle, just in case. It's all yours, Doug. Live off the land and all that. At least you won't be short of kangaroo tail soup, if you can shoot straight. Well, so long, boys. Cattle, a big mob too. Great herds roam this vast, still largely unfenced territory. Truly the wide open spaces, with the horizon seeming to stretch away to the rim of the world. Lonely, desolate. Nothing but a lone kangaroo startled by our sudden intrusion into his silent kingdom. They call it the Never Never, back or beyond. The poetry of Bushman's language describing a strange land that for them has an irresistible fascination. Westward still toward Broome, pushing cars to the limit of their endurance. Just watch that Hudson fly. Burning up for seemingly endless miles. That Zephyr overtaking the leading car is a New South Wales entry driven by R. Thomas. We're getting near stock routes now, and kangaroos on the road have given way to cattle. Stockmen of the Northwest, men who seldom see the city and never have seen a procession of cars like this. The Abo and his gin and their crude whirly, which is all the home they know or need. Now it's the infernal dust again, as thick as ever it was. The car eating ours in the rear is a Volkswagen, just for the record in case it's reported missing. The country here is either bone dry, as it is now, or impassable because of the wet. We're only a few miles from Hall's Creek. There it is now, a mighty welcome sight. Hall's Creek is only a village, and the garage is not pretentious, but the cars get speedy and efficient service from Aborigines tickled to death to have a part in all the excitement. Soon after leaving, we climbed a rugged hill to get isolated shots of cars heading west. Our luck was really in. We came up with a small party, including a gin, going walkabout, and we went bush with them, leaving car number 2 to follow the trial. Then on a distant rocky hill, we saw something that drew us closer. This was the real thing, the primitive Myall Aborigine in his natural state. This old man is cutting bark to make a woomera, or spear-throwing stick. Stone Age man, untouched and unaltered by 100 centuries and more. He demonstrates how the woomera is used. They gain tremendous leverage from it. Thousands of completely wild Aborigines still roam Australia's vast spaces, practicing their ancient corroboree and tribal rights. They're a proud, dignified, intelligent people whose bushcraft is amazing. Reluctantly, we leave this, to us, superb interlude and hurry back to get on with the job. Dark eyes watch the distant cars, and native minds wonder what new madness has beset the white man who has come to disturb their peace. And now we're racing to make up time into Broome. This sliding sand isn't exactly pleasant to drive on. But it isn't dangerous enough to wake a cameraman who's had practically no sleep for more than a week. Back into the dust. When will it end? Masks help a little, but no cure. We arrive in Broome in time to greet Les Miller. Despite losing no points from Darwin, he says, "Man, I've had it." Nearly halfway through the trial, drivers compressed beard controls or horror stretchers are sporting more than a week growth. They could be pirates come ashore from Buccaneer Dampier's ship, which touched these shores centuries ago. At the control, drivers make a beeline for any sort of washing facilities. The dust comes off in the form of diluted mud packs. Volunteers of the Country Women's Association cook a special meal that no competitor will ever forget. Tired men these, showing visible signs of a rugged ordeal. 9 continuous days at the wheel to date, 4,652 miles covered. There's a 24-hour rest period here for crews, but unfortunately not for us. Ace Holden driver Lex Davidson takes a look at the pearling luggers in Broome Harbour. Broome has a fascinating history. Great riches in pearls and shell have been taken from the nearby sea. 80 cars have been forced to withdraw up to date, battered and beaten on this trial that has certainly lived up to its name. They're opening up again. Through the scrub, over tracks that demand iron-willed concentration. Through Lagrange Station, well south of Broome, where the sign says, hopefully, to Perth, but gives no inkling of the long, torturing miles before we get there. Wild West Show, Aboriginal stockmen on a kangaroo drive, and we captured some of its excitement, too. The roos in hundreds are a menace because they eat up the fodder. What magnificent action this is. Old Man Roo on the run, covering yards in a single bound. But the roos can wait. They're here all the time. This fantastic procession of speeding cars only once. Funny, but watching us go by is more fun to them than chasing roos at a breakneck gallop. Well, let's get moving, boys. This is the Pardue Sands country, and the track's dangerous for that kind of speed anyway. The horses up here are used to having the roads to themselves. You'll have to move some to beat this job, though, Burnborough. It's got a lot more horsepower than you have. The Indian Ocean, and here the tide runs out 4 miles. We fly along, skirting the 80-mile beach. You can really let a car go here, absolutely flat, not a pedestrian for 100 miles, and not a traffic cop for 500. Wild donkeys, move over, you silly asses. Beneath that dramatic sky is Marble Bar, the hottest spot in Australia, the town where everyone reaches for the hot water bottle if the summer temperature dares drop below the century. Believe it or not, those beer bottles are full of coffee, the world's toughest car trial, and no kidding. Let's follow this standard out. Another breakdown, the Saville brothers, 96 points on their score sheet and real trouble on their hands. They're out of the trial. A visitor, Cobber, turns a very fishy eye on the whole thing. A plane carrying newspapermen overtakes the long stream of cars. But our cameramen take time off for big game hunting. So that's where Landy got his leg action. 4 of them. Maybe that wasn't coffee at Marble Bar. Every car's nose is pointed south, and Perth is still 500 miles away. Water at last, a relief to see it again because it heralds our return to civilization. Bad skid. Just as well there are no trees on the roadside. Another treacherous spot that. Perth at last, Western Australia's lovely capital, standing serene on the banks of the Swan. Car 257, J.T. Belling's Zephyr, 96 points down. It's tough getting to the control through the crowds, but the mass of people is more evidence of the way this trial has captured public imagination. G. Horner's Custom Line, 45 points lost. He and other crews are interviewed by Curly Bryden, who's bringing the story daily to radio listeners. Jack and Bill Murray are hot news now. Necessity certainly is the mother of invention. At the Perth Control, where crews will have a 12-hour break, there's a run on the bank. This unique mobile unit was a much appreciated service. So they draw their money, cash their travelers' checks, and prepare to foot the petrol bills back to Sydney. Still one car hasn't lost points. This Ford V8 with Jack Murray at the wheel, setting sail for Sydney with his nearest rival 8 points down. Eastward, through Coolgardie and Kalgoorlie. Eastward for the first time in 13 days. Eastward to Norseman. They're mighty frank out in the Golden West. On again. There's a continent to cross and we can only stay for highlights. Madura, 825 miles from Perth. Bill Murray is cracking up, so Gelignite Jack decides on suitable treatment. Playfully tossing sticks of Gelignite has been Murray's hobby throughout the trial, a habit police have failed to applaud. By outpost radio, trial information is transmitted to the main centers. Newspapermen get their stories out fast, too, for this trial, now reaching its climax, is world news. Back in Sydney Master Control at the Australian Sporting Car Club, scores are recorded. Murray's still leading with Patterson Victoria 8 points down and Anderson Queensland 14. As club officials get the news from Madura, the first cars are arriving at Eucla at the head of the Great Australian Bight. Only 142 are left in the trial now. 106 have found the going too tough. 2 men in a hurry. The pub must be open. Wait a minute, fellas. Oh, sorry. That Holden is one of the leading cars in the team section, and it's destined to hold that lead. The all-women's crew of a Humber pause for a cup of tea while other crews go exploring. This strange place, built last century, was a staging station on the overland telegraph line. But sand in giant waves blew up from the seashore. Now it's a ghost town. Out again onto the vast, featureless Nullarbor Plain. Good road, time can be made up. Hold hard. An emergency petrol tank exploded in this Citroën. Driver Frank O'Shea and his co-driver had to make a dramatic leap for life. The car's only 6 months old, but in a few minutes it's a burnt-out shell. Jack Murray picked them up and took them to Adelaide. Reno's car 19 takes a friendly salute from linesmen. Around the top of Spencer Gulf and finally Adelaide, the city of churches. It's Sunday, but apparently all the people aren't in church. Another big welcome. Cars go into control at Morpethville Racecourse. 2 days to go to the finish, and the best part of 1,400 miles to cover. Next stop is Melbourne, 575 miles away, and we're off again, speeding through Victoria. And so to Melbourne, here to find out the details of the Alpine route that will take the cars to Sydney. It's expected to be very tough. In heavy snow, anything can happen. Still the only clean skid. Well, he's still the only something. This looks like a horror section. But no, it's only Jack and Bill with another gag to keep officials guessing. They don't fool when they're driving, though. Melbourne's G.W. Patterson gets a real hometown welcome. And why not? He's only 8 points behind the Miracle Murrays. You wouldn't be plug in sedate Melbourne now, would you, Mr. Murray? But Jack could talk his way out of anything. Start talking, Murray. Frank Kleinig discusses the Justice Clerk route over the Australian Alps to Sydney. From semi-desert to mountain roads feet deep in snow is a pretty dramatic change. But that's what the weathermen forecast. Car 36, Christie's Chevrolet, checks in right on the dot. It's a field day for autograph hunters, and some of the cars have been autographed too. Hit by a bull. Well, what a cow. Walton and Gardner are flagged out for Sydney by General Robertson. Performance for a small car. Through the night and into the grey dawn, cars in a hurry. We're climbing and it's getting colder. High in the Alps near Mount Kosciuszko, this is what trial officials and drivers expect. Tough going, snow plows clearing roads, dangerous icy surfaces. This is what they got. Next to no snow at all. The smallest winter coverage in the memory of the oldest living inhabitant. The weatherman's face is red. Through Kyandra, opposite number to Marble Bar, for it's called the coldest spot in Australia. Not cold-hearted, though. Take no chances, driver. Cross that water slowly and watch the greasy road on the other side. Yes, there is some snow, but not on the roads. Certainly not enough to stop men and cars who have come this far unconquered. Jack Murray, with shock absorbers damaged 5,000 miles back, is still going strong and looking as if he's out for a weekend picnic. Down from the Alps, through Canberra to the Macquarie Pass, which takes us in a sharp drop, tricky winding roads and hairpin bends to the coast at Wollongong. They're surely whipping a thrill into the finish, dropping down thousands of feet from the highlands in a matter of minutes. Packed up now into a serpentine safari. A real test, this, of car, brakes, tires, and driver, especially driver. As evening falls, they go through the final checkpoint at Wollongong on the beautiful south coast. Then, at the top of the pass, head up for the last 50 miles to Sydney and the finishing line. Into the night again, and not far to go. It's cool, and roadside well-wishers gather round log fires to give us a wave and a cheer. And so, at last, Sydney Showground, the spot they left 18 days ago. Walton and Gardner are first to arrive. They win a special prize as most successful West Australian entry. Now they've got a nice long drive home to Perth. Irrepressible Jack Davey leaves his custom line outside and runs across the line because he was forced to withdraw, officially, due to trouble way out west. Still, he and his car completed the course. Tommy Sulman's Humber, with a loss of 22 points, is second in the big car class. That secret control was costly, wasn't it, Tommy? Tom Farrell and John Jones lost their 25 points for being early at a secret control, too. Their custom line is third in the big car class, and they're very happy about it. Short front and sides, also Rands and the best beer get on-the-spot service. That young shaver, Jack Davy, is fully occupied with fellow New Zealander Burge. And look at the rewards there are for the clean-shaven guys. They weren't beaten by a whisker. E. Nelson has driven his staff into 4th place in the open section. High up in the 5th placings last year, he is only 19 points down in this trial. Great going for both Nelson and the Vanguard. The country Holden entry won the important teams prizes. The crowd's interest increases as Duck Anderson of Queensland drives into the arena. His Holden, with only 14 points lost, is 3rd in the outright point score. A really grand performance. While excited relatives welcome drivers home, the second prize winner in this mammoth trial arrives. Victorian G.W. Patterson. Pretty happy about the whole setup, and why shouldn't he be? He finished only 8 points behind the Miracle Murrays. And what a reception they get. In their 6-year-old Ford V8, they've gone right round Australia without losing a single point. A magnificent achievement. It's been a test of stamina and skill, a test of man and car, over the longest and toughest reliability trial ever attempted. They've won a cheque for £2,200 plus a prefabricated house, plus a great many manufacturers' special prizes. These boys are the tops. They've won the right to public acclaim and what goes with it. On the stage of Sydney's State Theatre, REDEX Managing Director Red Shepherd and Sporting Car Club President Dan McFarlane call Jack Murray on to a great reception. And there's Bill, beef driver. Formal salute of 21 guns for Gelignite Jack.
Has to happen. Right, it's outright win. The greatest trial that's ever held in the world. Thank you, Ed. Thanks a lot, Mr. Sheriff.
And the trophy. It's a great day for the Miz. Stock model cars. Their performance in the REDEX Trial of 1954 is a tribute to the high step to which the giant motor industry is a tribute also to the skill, courage and endurance of the men who drove them over 9,600 miles on the most grueling, exciting overture in world history.